Good afternoon, everyone. I am Zehra Naqvi, your moderator and senior research associate at South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. Thank you for joining us for this important international webinar titled The Detrimental Effects of Hindu Nationalism on Minorities. As an organization committed to advocating for and empowering minority rights in South Asia, we recognize that the impact of Hindu nationalism is on rise. Today, we have unmissable discussion on the urgent effect of this trend on minorities. As we delve onto the topic, the detrimental effect of Hindu nationalism on minorities, we acknowledge the rising concern surrounding the implication of this ideology on marginalized communities. Hindu nationalism often foster an environment of inclusion, impacting social cohesion and threatening the rights and dignity of minority communities across the South Asia region. This discussion is crucial as we seek to understand the multi-phased challenges faced by these communities and explore the pathways towards a more inclusive and equitable society. Together, we can unpack these critical issues through the insight of our distinguished panels of speakers. We are thrilled to have the powerhouse panel of expertise with us today, including Mazhar Hussain from India, Dr. Abhay Kumar from India, and we also having Dr. V.A. Ramesh Nathan from India. So our first speaker is Dr. Abhay Kumar. He is an independent journalist, a writer, and holds a PhD in history from JNU University. He teaches politics and Urdu. He is an active social activist in India. So Dr. Kumar, now the floor is now yours, and thank you so much for joining once again. May you proceed now.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And as you have said that I have to speak on detrimental effects of Hindu nationalism. I think this topic is also taught at university, at colleges, and I think anybody who has done graduations in political science and social sciences will be able to understand that why religion-based politics is bad for any country. This is not the case of India only, where Hindu nationalism is rising. If you see South Asia or different regions of Asia or Europe or American continent, you will find that religion-based politics is on rise. And I would like to argue here that if religious identity is too much stressed, if religious identity is going to determine all the policies, then what will happen? Then the society will. And we have to keep in mind that when British Empire, when the British colonial rulers were here in India, they were exploiting the natives, they were exploiting the Indians, both Hindus and Muslims. A resistance against the foreign rule emerged. And what has happened that at that time, since the bad policies of the colonial rules were affecting Hindus and Muslims alike, so both Hindus and Muslims and Christians and Sikhs, they all got together and they started waging their struggles against the colonial rules, and they were asking that self-rule should be given to Indians. And I would like to quote here M.K. Gandhi, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who is known as father of the nations in post-independent India. So Gandhi ji wrote a book, a small book in 1907, and the book is known as Hind Swaraj. And in that book, he had said very clearly that even if self-rule is as bad as anarchy, it is better than, the best rule or the good rule by the foreigners. If I put it simply, Gandhiji used to say that British rulers, you should not teach us that you are very good at governing us, even if the fact is accepted that you are great and you are ruling us in the welfare of Indians. We do not need your rule, okay? We do not need your rule. We will be allowed to rule. We have our right to rule. And even if we are not able to rule properly, we will learn it. And you should not teach us. I think outsiders have no right to rule over Indians. This was Mahatma Gandhi's argument. Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar, who was very critical of Congress nationalism and Mahatma Gandhi, he has a very different opinion. He said that the Indian nationalists, who are mostly upper caste, they often quote British political scientists and British philosopher Mill to argue that no one class should have a right to rule over another class. And on that logic, I think they are demanding self-rule. But elites, the upper caste elites, forget the fact that the Dalits and the marginalized communities, they are being suppressed by the upper caste, by the native elites. So if independence is given to India, if the rights of Dalits and rights of marginalized communities are not secured then that independence will not yield any result to marginalized communities. So you will find that independence was demanded by Gandhiji, independence was also demanded by Baba Saheb Ambedkar, but their argument was a bit different. Gandhiji was more talking about all India nationalism, and Ambedkar was for freedom of India, but he was very much concerned about if freedom is given to Indians, what would be the rights for the marginalized community, particularly Dalits and other backward classes. So you have to keep in mind that both Gandhiji and both Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar, they were talking about some kind of secular nationalism, and they were not treating anybody inferior or superior on the basis of religion. In Gandhi's movement, Hindus and Muslims were all participating. In Baba Saheb Ambedkar's movement, marginalized caste from all the religions, they were participating. So these are the examples of secular nationalism. So what is secular nationalism? If you have to keep in mind, if I have to just define it very easily in a very simple terms, secular nationalism believes that people born in a particular region, people living in a particular region, they share some kind of history. Their future is the same. They are involved in material struggles. So people should not be discriminated on the basis of religion. A state should have the policy which should be the secular. It should not discriminate on the basis of religion. But what has happened that Hindu nationalists, they emerged in 19th century. They emerged in their earlier phase, and they were talking about the glorious Hindu past. They were talking about that India is nothing but India is Hindu, and even that Hindu was not Hinduism in a popular sense. They were defining Hinduism in a Brahmanical sense. And B.D. Savarkar, who wrote a book, Hindutva, in early 1920s, he was basically arguing that the true citizens of India, the loyal citizens of India, are those who are not Muslim, who are not Christian, because the fatherland of the Christians and the Muslims, they are not located in India, but they are located outside India, for example, in Makkah or in Jerusalem and other parts of the world. So basically, Savarkar was arguing that Muslims' loyalty towards India and Christians' loyalty towards India should not be trusted, because they have their orientation, they have their, what should I say, their faith located outside, and the real, authentic Indians, the real Deshbhakt, the real, what should I say, the nationalists are only the Hindus. So what Savarkar was trying to do, Savarkar was trying to define Indian nationalism in terms of religion. One thing you have to keep in mind, that Savarkar and Hindu nationalists often argue that Hindu nationalism is not about religion, but it is about culture. Okay, it appears that Hindu nationalism is all about culture, but if you go deep inside it, the division between culture and religion is completely forgotten. And what is culture is also religion, and what is religion is also culture. For example, the Vice President of India recently has given a statement in Jaipur, and he has said that the Sanatan Dharma belongs to India. So he was basically trying to argue that India's official religion is Hinduism, which and Sanatan Dharma. But Indian constitution is secular. Indian constitution doesn't say that India should have any official religion. A state cannot discriminate citizen on the basis of caste and creed and religion and sex and gender and region. This is what Indian constitution is talking about. But Hindu nationalists, they try to differentiate people on the basis of religion. They think that Hindus are authentic Indians, Hinduism is authentic religion, and Christianity and Islam and communism and socialism, these are all alien religions. So this is the perverted thinking of Hindu nationalism. And from here, all kinds of bad and all kinds of wrong policies are flowing. And that is why we find that in modern India, discrimination against Muslims continue. What has happened that since 2014, when the Hindu nationalist government came to power, it has, what should I say, it has intensified discriminations against the Muslims minority, against the Christians minority. Friends, you might be keeping track of what is happening in India. Recently, the Supreme Court has given, the apex court of the country has given the judgment, it has given the observations that the houses of the person accused in any criminal cases cannot be demolished because it is against the rule of the law. The background of this judgment is that in last 4 or 5 or 10 years, what has happened, that the Hindu nationalist government, the Hindu nationalist politicians are using bulldozer as a form of justice, but it is not justice, it is atrocities on minorities. And anybody who is speaking against Hindu nationalism, anybody who is accused of, anybody who is critical of Hindu nationalist government, any minority member, any minority community which is talking about their rights, what is happening, that to silence them, to threaten them, to make them not to speak, bulldozer is being used, and all rules are being bypassed, rule of the law is bypassed. And Amnesty International, the human rights organization, has prepared reports and it has argued. So bulldozer is being used to attack minority communities, and Amnesty International, human rights watchdog, has prepared a report. It is available there. You can just read it. And it has shown that minority Muslims are being targeted deliberately. And there is no rule. There is no rule that you can go and you can demolish the house. For example, if I have committed the crime, before the hearing, the police can come and police can demolish my house. Even if I'm convicted that I have done some theft or I have beaten somebody, that cannot be the ground to demolish my house, because in my house, my parents, my brothers, my sister, my wife, my children, they are also living. So what is happening? That somehow the bulldozer justice is being used to threaten, to silence them so that they should not speak. So the point I am trying to say, that this is all coming from the perverted thinking that Hindus are the real, authentic, the loyal Indians, and the minorities are somehow they are aliens, or they are not true Indians, they are less Indians. That is not the right way to run this country. I think Indian Constitution is wonderful. It has given given equal rights to everybody, and somehow what has happened, that those rules are being bypassed. And all the time I remember Baba Saheb Ambedkar, who has said that even if you have got very good constitution, but if people from the marginalized communities are not at the top, the people from the marginalized communities are not there to implement those policies, justice will not be given. So we should try to educate, we should try to bring about awareness, and we should try to build up the movement where more and more people from the Dalits, from the OBCs, from the marginalized community, and even the poor section from the upper caste, they reach the important positions and they decide their policy, and that is how we can change the policy. So now the point I am trying to say, that Hindu nationalism, which is a form of, what should I say, racism, which is a form of, what should I say, religion-based politics, which is promoting discrimination, I think you will find its copy elsewhere also in a diluted form or maybe in a more intensified form. The message which I would like to give here through my presentation is that we should not discriminate people on the basis of religion. For example, in Pakistan, Muslims are in majority, but if minorities are there, if they are Hindus or if they are Christians, or if they are Sikhs, their future lies in Pakistan. Their future does not lie in any other country. And I think the majority community in Pakistan or the majority community in India should try to treat them as their brother, their sister. And if religious politics is promoted, the integrity of the country will be will get weakened. And the policy makers should try to promote the interest of the minorities. And I think the welfare of any country, the good health of any democracy is how the minority is doing well. In our country, in India, Hindu nationalists often talk about that we will build up Hindu Rashtra. But Baba Saheb Ambedkar said 70, 80 years back that nothing could be as worse as Hindu Rashtra. Nothing could be as bad as Hindu nationalism. And I would like to challenge through your platform anybody who believes in Hindu nationalism that you cannot have Hindu nationalist model implemented in any particular village, not to talk of district, not to talk of a state, and not to talk of India as a whole. Because Hindu society is based on caste system. So any unity cannot be built up if caste system is not removed. So the very idea of Hindu nationalism is just to divert people's attention from caste-based inequality, from material inequality. And you will find that the Hindu nationalists often try to talk about Hindu Muslims, but they forget this fact that Muslims are contributing more than their share in the welfare of this country, and they are equal partner. They are not less than anybody, and Islam has claim over India as much Hinduism has. And I think that in this country, the policies based on religion will not succeed, and secular forces are struggling. And I think everywhere, in every part of the world, we should try to defeat in a peaceful and a democratic manner any politics based on religion, any politics based on discrimination, any politics based on religious identity. Religious identity is very much our personal thing. Nobody is saying that if you are a Hindu, you do not believe like a Hindu, but we should also respect if somebody wants to live their faith as a Muslim. This is what I have to say. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
I totally agree with you what you say, Dr. Abhay Kumar. Thank you so much for sharing the reality on these pressing issues. So finally, we have Dr. V.R. Ramesh Nathan, the Executive Director of Social Awareness Society for Youth. He is also a Dalit human rights activist. Dr. Nathan, the floor is now yours. Please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Zehra, for this opportunity. Also, thanks to Emandas. Thanks to Dr. Abhay Kumar. He really set the context. And he also traced the history of India before independence, during independence, after independence, and the contradiction between Gandhi and Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and the present the political scenario, especially the detrimental on the impact on the minorities, Muslims and other marginalized communities. See, for me, any religion or religious identity remains at the personal level or individual level, at the family level, or kind of spirituality, the spirituality which sustains, promotes humanity, human dignity, it is fine. But when it comes to the public sphere, political sphere, and they try to make the state as a religious state, or religious nations, any religion for that matter, either Christianity, Muslims, or Buddhist, Hindu, then they become too fundamentalist, and they negate the minorities, religious minorities, or minorities based on different identities within the country, and it has its own detrimental effect on the communities as a whole. This divides the country, divides the humanity, polarization taking place. As a result, it moves towards destruction of the nation, human relationship for that matter. So when I look at my experience, like what Dr. Abhay Kumar traced the history, the same problem persists even today. One side, the India fought against the Britishers, their colonizations. But on the other end, what Baba Sahib Ambedkar also very, very careful while negotiating for the independence. So he was also very keen on the religious minorities and the minorities of the Dalit communities and tribal communities. So he wanted to ensure the equality and dignity for all, including these three major minority communities. That's where the contradiction between Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar, the struggle has begun. Though Gandhi is in favor of Hinduism and strong believer of Hindu, but he was shot dead or assassinated by the Hindu fundamentalist organization called RSS, only because he supported secularism, secular state. That's why he paid the price. He was assassinated. Since then, I think it went through different political, altogether the political issues since from the independence. This is firing under the corporate, but gradually in the last 25 years, the Hindu fundamentalist becoming more and more politically strong. They polarized in the name of Hindu religion by creating tensions, violence against the minorities. It is a Muslim, Christians, Dalits, or tribals. I think that is the kind of political game that they played. And in the last 25 years, they really gained that kind of space by demolishing the Babur Masjidis, in Gujarat in 1992, and then Gujarat riot 2002, and then the last year, Manipur against the tribal Christians. This is a major incident, but on day-to-day basis, more we can see the violence or discrimination faced by the Muslims, Christians, including Dalits and tribals. I think that is the kind of effect on the minorities. Many churches were burned. Many nuns were raped in the countries. Religious institutions been attacked. Policies have been changed. Laws been changed in favor of Hindu communities or Hindu religions, and promoted major campaigns throughout the state. And as a result, I can say that violence against Dalit communities in the last 10 years, it has been increased from 50,000 per annum violence against Dalit communities and 10,000 against tribal communities. The last recent National Crime Record Bureau's data, it shows that almost 80,000 crimes against the Dalit and Adivasis communities. In an average, 12 Dalit women and tribal women are raped per day. This is only reported cases. Then imagine the kind of people who have been targeted, the communal violence spread over the countries. I think the enormous. I think the country going through kind of, I would say, a kind of civil war in different places because of the communalization. So what are their actually, how do they operate? I think that's most important. The Hindu nationalism are their core principles. I can see that there are 5 major core principles based on which they operate. Number one, the Hindutva. They want the Hindu to be declared as a Hindu nation. It emphasizes the Hindu culture, Hindu civilization as the foundation of the Indian identity. I think that is their basic aspirations. Second, they want also to see that the Akhand Bharat, the wide nation. I don't know whether it includes Pakistan and Bangladesh, no? Because that's the major political contradiction during the independence. Some of the Hindu nationalists, they wanted to remain as a Akhand Bharat together, but because of the various reasons, the Pakistan divided, later and Bangladesh divided, but the issue is still burning. So they wanted to see the Akhand Bharat. That is the Hindu nationalism, one of the core principles. Then Hindu Rashtra. Hindu Rashtra is they don't want secular nation in India. They want to declare as a Hindu nations, no? Hindu religious nation, and promote the Hindu religion as a dominant religion in the country. Then cultural nationalism. That's another principle they operate, promoting Hindu values, traditions, heritage as a central to Hindu nationalism. And finally, anti-secularism. They don't want the secularic democratic nation, which the leaders were envisaged while fighting against the Britishers for the self-rule. But that is the major threat. They want to change the constitution. In fact, I would say that they have not changed the constitution, but almost all important legislation already been amended, changed the names. I think without declaring as a Hindu nation, I would say now the Hindu state is being ruled the last 10 years. That is the dangerous position. So this has its own detrimental effect on the minorities, religious minorities, then the socially marginalized communities. The two, in my opinion, that the Hindus are not majority. In a way, technically, ideologically, the original Hindu percentage, so-called the dominant caste or upper caste, dominant caste, their percentage is, they are the minority actually. Whereas if you take it, the OBCs and scheduled caste, scheduled tribe are majority. But the kind of political polarization, they incorporated all these people who practice Hindu religion brought under the one umbrella as a Hindu nation. I think that's in a way conspiracy. And the major issue at present is the freedom of religion. So starting from the Hindu, within the Hindu religious community, Dalits are not Hindu, tribals are not Hindu. So there is an aspiration from these two communities we wanted to declare that we are not part of Hindu. That is the reason why there is a large number of people from scheduled caste, scheduled tribe converted to Christianity, converted to Muslim religion, and Buddhist. That's how Baba Sahib Ambedkar also said, I born as a Hindu, but I will not die as a Hindu. He converted with a large number of population to the Buddhist. So what I'm saying is the freedom of religion is very much affected. That's the very, very basic issue that I would say. So being as a Christian, being as a Muslim, being as a the Dalit, non-Hindu Dalits or non-Hindu tribes is the major issue, I would say. So that way, to a large extent, now the Hindu fundamentalist group openly started saying that you are not part of nations. You are come from Muslims are come from what do you call Muslim Arab countries. Christians are from Europe. They should go back. I think that is the kind of voices are coming up. So the freedom of religion is really a stake at this time. And based on this, the discrimination, exclusion, violence are rampant. I think that is second very, very important. I can quote many examples of the violence which are perpetrated against these both religious minorities and Dalit and tribal communities. And also there is a kind of insecurity now in the recent past developed among us is that whether we will have a right of citizenship because of the recent Citizens Amendment Bill and national registration of citizens. This is in a way gradually started implementing, but when it's going to implement in the full swing, it's going to be a big problem. And there is also, a kind of information is leaking out that the Muslims and Christians going to be face a lot of problem because of this Citizens Amendment Bill. They may not get they may get the Indian citizenship, but they may not will get a right to vote. No, I think that's going to be a big problem. And because of this, the independent institutions are becoming politicalized. I think that's very, very dangerous. Like our Dr. Abhay Kumar quoted about the recent judgment. There are many High Court and Supreme Court directions and judgment is coming up, but at the same time, either it's a judiciary or bureaucracy or human rights commissions or election commissions, all independent institutions are politicalized and captured by the BJP party. So it is not really independently functioning, which means there is no democracy at all. Democratic independent, if there is no democratic independent institution, then it is going to be a kind of dictatorship that we can see. But in reality, that's what is happening. The other aspect is that the cultural erosions. I think that's really a threat for the minorities. There are, the language, food culture, customary practices, marriages. There are many cultural aspects. I think that's going to be a big problem. So the country is moving now, one country, one culture, one language. Then what else? One election, one ID card. I think it's moving towards that kind of a thing. This will have its own impact on the minorities, Dalits and tribal communities because the diversification of the culture, as you said, that the inclusion, it's going to be a big problem. It's going to be more and more the fundamentalist nationalists, Hindu nationalists, is their approach is the exclusion. Exclusion, in a way, consolidation of or polarization of the Hindu nationalism. I think the cultural aspect is going to be very, very big problems. So you could have read, many people could have read the issue like openly saying now I am a beef eater. Traditionally, I've been eating beef. The Muslims and Dalit communities, we have been eating beef, but now it is very, very difficult to openly say that, we are beef eaters. There are many people have been killed because of they are selling beef or eating beef. I think this kind of culture, the Hindu Brahminical culture, is going to be dominated. And the minorities culture, the Dalit culture, the tribal culture, going to be eroded Then, of course, the political empowerment. There is a great threat to the democracy in India, and the constitution going to be changed. That's what the sources are indicating. There is a parallel group is working on the new constitution going to be replaced to declare that this is the Hindu nation. I think that's really, really danger. I mean, finally, what is the kind of the rights of the citizens? All these rights are going to be affected, and the minority Hindu nationalist, which plays or polarize in the name of religion, going to gain that kind of political space. And there is a great threat for the minorities, Muslims, Dalit and Adivasis. So that's how any state, I come back when I started, any state which are religious, it's really it's against the citizens, against the humanities. So we need to see that any state has to be secular in nature and non-religious. There is a scope for respect to the human rights within that state. I think I'll stop here if there is any other.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh Nathan, for your valuable insight onto this topic and for highlighting such critical points. And I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Abhay Kumar and Dr. Ramesh Nathan for their contribution and to all the participants in the vital discussion today. Your engagement is essential as we continue to address these critical issues facing by minorities today. We hope this webinar has shed light on the urgent need for inclusivity and equality in our societies. We look forward to seeing you at the future events also and continue this important dialogue in future. Until then, take care. Goodbye. Good luck. Best wishes to you, Dr. Nathan.
Thank you.